Portuguese translations for this session. And you should have found the headsets on your seats. Did everybody get one? So I'll just show you quickly how to use this if you haven't connected it already. You'll just unwind the cable, so get the headset, and then just connect it on the top of the white sort of gadget here. You'll just connect the cable into that, and you'll see a power button, the red button in the middle. Just turn it on, and you should see a number come on. And we'll show you here on the screens in front of us, you will see the channel. So that explains to you which channel is for English and which is for Portuguese. And if you'd like to switch, you can see the tune plus or tune minus. You just press up or down to get the channel. And for volume, you just see so you only press the buttons in the middle. You don't need to touch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll just need to check which channel you want. So you can press the tune button 1 or 2. So everybody okay with that? Yes? If you have problems, just approach our ushers and we can replace the headset if there's a problem with it, or we'll assist you with that. All right, and also a reminder that you can send in, even to our online participants, you can send in your questions and comments on the Events Air app. Just click on the agenda icon, and then you'll click on the session that you are in. So we have different sessions throughout the day. Click on the session, and then there will be a field that appears for you to type in your question, and then click Submit, and we will try our best to accommodate them during the panel discussions. All right, I'll introduce you now to your moderator for this panel. We have Michael Sampson, Research Director of the Economic Policy Research Institute. Michael has 36 years of experience working in social protection and specializes in designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating integrated social protection programs, policies, and systems. His current work explores the role of social protection as the vital social dimension of integrated climate, development, and equity strategies. He is also on the economics faculty at the Williams College Center for Development Economics in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Sampson. May we call our panelists to come forward? I guess you'll introduce them. Yes.
I'll introduce the panel members with their first questions as they take their seats. I just want to say how remarkable Maribel's presentation was just now. I think her connecting ideas slide is my new favorite PowerPoint slide. It really illustrates the key messages we'll be talking about in this panel discussion. She spent a lot of time talking about connecting the dots. Connecting the dots is integration. It's the way that social protection builds bridges to other developmental sectors, to human capital, to livelihoods, and begins to strengthen the developmental synergies that are so important for inclusive social development and green and sustainable growth. And so in this panel, we're going to explore the 3 waves of social protection that have influenced policies in Asia and the Pacific over the past few decades. Yesterday, the panel talked about some of the core instruments that make up that first wave, cash transfer programs. And we have represented on the panel Indonesia, which was one of the leaders in this region in both conditional and unconditional cash transfers. And these cash transfer programs, the first wave instruments, they were not meant to be integrated. They were just meant to tackle poverty and vulnerability. But when we started doing research into this first wave, we found a really surprising result. They didn't create dependency, just plain old cash transfers. The first viral app of social protection naturally contributed to human capital development and to livelihoods empowerment without even trying. And it gave rise to 2 important results. One I'll talk about in a minute as we think more about COVID, But the other result is it raised the question, what would happen if we tried to integrate social protection into human capital activities, into livelihoods? And this is what gave surge to the second wave of social protection, starting in the 2000s. And Bangladesh is one of the key countries that pioneered graduation programs and livelihoods linkages representing this second wave designed integration. But that first wave also had a very powerful message, as we saw during COVID, that just tackling poverty and vulnerability had a naturally integrative effect in making markets and governments work better for the poor and vulnerable. So in the face of COVID, as public health measures and shutdowns put our economies into comas, social protection was this first wave instrument. Cash transfers were the instrument of choice in providing economic life support. And in this way, COVID taught us a really important lesson, because the pandemic was, in our lifetimes, the crisis that where the policy response to the shock so accelerated and intensified the economic and social and even the political consequences of the direct shock, the pandemic itself. And cash transfers enabled the public health response to work better. That is, it mitigated the direct shock. And that's COVID. That's long past, we hope. But in this key respect, COVID is just like another future crisis, another wave of crisis on the horizon. Well, actually, waving across many of our shores already. Climate change, where the policy response to climate change, as we heard from Kate Hughes in the panel yesterday afternoon, will be so disruptive. And social protection, again, will demonstrate its valuable role in this third wave of programming, strengthening the social dimension of integrated climate development and equity strategies. And we already heard from the president of Timor-Leste this morning the inspiring words about how social protection can strengthen nutritional outcomes. That is a critical example of integration. And from Maribel, the critical role of integration in livelihoods. And today on the panel, we have 4 exemplary cases of integrated social protection. In Bangladesh, where a national social security strategy has one of the most ambitious of goals, consolidating 145 distinct programs into an integrated 5-pillar life cycle approach. In the Philippines, with one of the most remarkable projects I've ever seen, an example of the third wave integration of climate development and equity. From Indonesia, one of the remarkable tools for integration, Regsosec, a social and economic registry that can be used as a tool not only for efficiency and effectiveness, but for building bridges across sectors. And in Timor-Leste, as we heard from the president in the inspiring words, and we'll hear more from the minister about the vital role of Bolsa de Mayo in terms of building nutrition and early childhood development. So let me start by introducing Mr. Mahmoodul Hussain Khan. He's the Secretary, Coordination and Reforms at the Cabinet Division in Bangladesh, with responsibility for coordination and administrative development, civil registration and social security, performance, implementation, monitoring. You have a big job. Administrative reforms in particular, conflict resolution, and others. Prior to this, he was the Director General of Bangladesh's Anti-Corruption Commission. Mr. Khan, 8 years ago, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, at a conference organized by the government and UNDP, launched what I think is the world's most ambitious social security strategy. As I mentioned, aiming to consolidate 145 schemes at the time into these 5 life cycle pillars. This is the macro picture on integration. As Secretary in the Cabinet Division, you have responsibility for coordinating, I think, 39 agencies and ministries responsible for social protection. And you've already begun to achieve success. Can you tell us, what are the kinds of bottlenecks you've encountered in managing this integration? And what have you done to overcome these bottlenecks?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Respected panelists, esteemed participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Asian Development Bank and its co-organizers to organizing such a beautiful, splendid workshop, which is very time-worthy, and at the same time, it is as a key feature of the world. Let me take the opportunity to answer the question of your, respond to your question. I'd like to highlight the background of social security in Bangladesh. Actually, in 1972, after the independence of Bangladesh, the social security, social protection started in 1972. Though these social protection were really based, and then the main development of social protection was done in 1996 in the name of social safety net programs. It was the name is named as social safety net programs. At that time, new vulnerable groups identified, new programs identified, and as a result, into 2020, government has seen that too many programs, but there is no exact figure how many programs are running and how many ministries are involved with these activities. We have still 2012, we have no data actually. So upon considering this, the present Prime Minister directed to the Cabinet Division to formulate a strategy to find out the ways and means and how to integrate all these programs in a coordinated way. And as a result, in 2015, as you mentioned, that the government has taken an ambitious strategy to form and then NSSS, that is National Social Security Strategy, was formulated. As the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister herself was involved with the formulation of the strategy. So Bangladesh is lucky enough that the highest political forum, highest political person is engaged with these activities, and so it facilitates to implement the social security programs smoothly. And the National Social Security System strategy, it was converted to social life cycle based social security system. And Cabinet Division was given the responsibility to coordinate all the all the ministries and to consolidate the programs. It is to mention here that as I am working in the Cabinet Division as Secretary, Coordination and Reforms, so I have to lead the coordination. I have to lead this coordination to consolidate the process. Actually, very soon we discovered that the consolidation process is not an easy task. It is really, really a big task, because you have heard that 145 programs were running at that time, and the 39 ministries was involved. So when Cabinet Divisions takes effort to consolidate this, we think there are some challenges we have found. Number one, there is a misconception, perception gap, that reducing the number of programs, some people think that reducing the number of programs means giving less priority to the social security system. And the second is that lose of the control and authority over the programs, because many programs are running the same name in different ministries. So who will lose the programs? This is another challenge. And the third one is the administrative challenge. There are different objectives of each programs, different manpowers. To merge these manpowers in a single window, it is really challenging. But a matter of glad that we have Cabinet Division finally succeeded through repeated meetings, repeated consultation and conflict resolution mechanism, that we have finally from 145 social security programs, we have finally come to 115. Although we have there are in future the programs will be again reduced, but presently we have decided that some programs need not to be merged. There some are very tiny programs, very limited budget, and we have decided that the small programs will not be renewed, and it will ultimately phased out. It will ultimately phased out. And the programs are consolidated, but area of coverage is gradually increasing. Presently, although the programs we are reducing, but area are gradually increasing. We have school stipend program, disability benefit, old age, all are universal. And with this, I think that Cabinet Division is playing a very, very significant role to consolidate the total 145 programs to 115. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I imagine, as you mentioned, leadership and political will have been vital in making that happen. Thank you. I want to introduce Pavit Ramachandran, who serves as ABD's country director for the Philippines. He oversees the implementation of ADB's current country partnership strategy for the Philippines, which has identified up to $4 billion worth of sovereign loans for 2023. And he'll supervise the preparation of the ADB's CPS for 2024 to 2029, which will aim to advance and enhance ADB's efforts to intensify climate action, improve climate-smart connectivity through transport, digital technology, and energy, and invest in Filipinos' welfare. Prior to this, he worked in Mongolia. Both of these countries have excellent examples of integrated social protection. We could talk all day about those, but Pavit, I want to just focus and shift now from the country strategy to the project. In fact, the most remarkable project I've ever seen, the Davao Public Transport Modernization Project. It exemplifies the third wave of social protection, integrating climate, development, and equity dimensions protecting existing transport workers whose livelihoods will be disrupted, ensuring equitable access to infrastructure services, promoting gender equality, and more. And the social protection investments here are intricately integrated into just about every element of the project's design. My question is, how does the ADB support the municipal government and other partners in managing these complex linkages between infrastructure aspects and the social dimensions of the project?
Thank you, Michael, and real pleasure to be here with this very distinguished panel. As you rightly said, this from ADB's standpoint, and indeed I think from the Philippines standpoint, really has been and is a trailblazing project, first of its kind. We've had a very long engagement in social protection here, in working on improving health and well-being, addressing the needs of the poor and vulnerable. We heard a little bit about this yesterday from Secretary Rex from DSWD. But on this particular project, let me highlight a few elements here. For the purpose of the people in the room, this was a project that looked at citywide modernization of the transport fleet. It's the first time that the Asian Development Bank has looked at transitioning an entire fleet of jeepneys to modern buses. So this was not a particular route, it was an entire city. And about 30 to 40% of this will be electric vehicles. The rest are Euro 5 modern, obviously with huge impacts in terms of reducing carbon emissions. So the climate change element was very much integrated into the design of the project. But I think to your point, from a very, very early stage, we had looked at the social development, social protection aspects of this project as integral to the design. The project took 8 years to prepare. I think this just speaks to the complexity of the project, the engagement strategy that the project had, the stakeholder consultations at all levels that needed to be undertaken. From a very early stage, we tried to integrate with the cultural, political themes in Davao City itself. So they had a motto which says, "Life is here," which is very much about improving the quality of life of the local citizens, about improving their self-reliance, productivity. So this, in some ways, became the motive for the project itself, right? We had to engage with a whole set of stakeholders from the city government to the Department of Transportation, but really the whole economy around the jeepney sectors. So most of you have probably seen the jeepneys if you're driving across Manila City. So this is a very pervasive aspect, very culturally integrated aspect of the transport sector in the cities in the Philippines. So it was not just the jeepney drivers or the operators, but the broader economy around the repair shops, the fare collectors, so the allied sectors that support the broader jeepney economy all had to be looked at in terms of not just the direct displacement, because I think up to 24,000 drivers, owners would have been displaced through the project, but also in terms of the impacts to the broader economy and the community. So we had both financial and non-financial transfers that were built into the design of the project. And this stakeholder engagement was done such that from a very early stage, local communities could share their views in a free and direct and transparent way with the project implementing unit. So there was always this aspect that was built in. And the project team from about 2015 included, which was very much at the start of the project, had a social development team integrated into the project. And this was a team that brought in global experience, expertise, leadership into the design of the project. The last 2 points I'll make, Michael, one is that this has to tie in with the local policies, institutional structures. So we made sure that the city, Davao City Department of Social Welfare had a direct stake in the project. The local ordinances, executive orders that were enacted to support this came directly from the local setup itself. And there was a clear targeting strategy in terms of targeting the beneficiaries, which was done very deliberately, and an exit strategy, such that the government could pick up after the project's end the counterpart contributions, both financial and non-financial. Let me stop there.
Great, no, thank you. This is certainly raising the ambition, and we'll come back to this in the second round. I want to introduce Mohammed Shalifihani, the Director of Population and Social Security at the Ministry of National Development Planning, Bapenas. Since 2019, he's worked as the Director of Population and Social Security. He has a PhD from Nagoya University with research in population, social insurance, the SDGs, and the circular economy. And I just had a conversation with him about the important demographic dividend in Indonesia. Lifi, I want to ask you about one of the tools of integration, social registries, RegSosec. How are you using these systems to better enable effective and inclusive participation and also maximizing developmental impacts?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. It is interesting question from Michael and also the distinguished panelists here and all the audience. Thank you and very good morning here. And one more thing that you have to do, and then you have to know that Indonesia is the unique country. We have the more than 13,000 islands, right? And currently the population of Indonesia is 275 million people. And it's around the 89 million households. And then in the geographical manner is also their constraint, like the geographic constraint because of we are archipelago, right? That is our challenge. So based on this condition, we have in our development planning, we have our 5 years development planning is how to make reform for social protection for whole Indonesian people. That our mission. So the action that government doing until now is the how to integrate the social protection, how to make the adaptive social protection, how to the finance the scheme for the those protection, and the other one is the socio-economic registry. So the Indonesian the bahasa Indonesia in the bahasa is RegSosec, socio-economic registry. What is this? This is a data collection for the population. The whole population in Indonesia include profile, include the socio-economic condition. It means that include the sanitation, include the health, include the asset, and also the level of welfare. It is important, the level of welfare in Indonesia, and is targeted 100% people and household in Indonesia. That is our socio-economic registry. So when you know, and as you know, the Indonesia, the some administrative data still scattered. For example, in terms of the social assistance data is coming from our colleague from Ministry of Social Affairs. And in terms of the tax and income is our colleague from the Ministry of Finance. In terms of the social security, like the pension security, like the health security, like the, how we can say, unemployment benefit security and health security is under the security agency in Indonesia. And also for the data for information, labor information system, and also empowerment market is under the Ministry of Manpower. So because of this scattered data of that, so government have effort to conduct socio-economic registry. So, I said to see this situation. Of course, the objective of the registry is to make it the realize to more inclusive, more the efficient, transparent, accountable delivery of social protection through the life cycle approach. Thank you for the this morning because the life cycle approach is the one of the approach to make it all people have the get the security, get the protection, like this. The one is Michael. The advantage by using the RESOSEC or socioeconomic registry is like the targeted for the delivery assistant is more targeted, is more focused, transparent, and also, of course, for our development planning, we have the can monitor, can also evaluate with the part of Indonesia to like the early warning for the climate, for the drought and other disaster, natural disaster. I think stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. That is most helpful. And I now want to shift to, from the nuts and bolts of integration to one of the key themes we'll dig deeper into, human capital. And I have the honor to introduce Her Excellency Veronica Dodoris, the Minister in the Ministry of Social Solidarity and Inclusion in Timor-Leste. She's been working in the area of social protection since 2004 and has significant experiences and technical knowledge in social pensions and cash transfers, especially for mothers and children, including children with disabilities. She has extensive knowledge and experience in the public management of disability inclusive services. Minister, Timor-Leste is substantially scaling up the Bolsa de Maya maternal and child integrated social protection program. It's a remarkable program, integrating social protection with investments in early childhood. It's the kind of program that both delivers vital social protection while building the foundation of human and cognitive capital that is the future of the country's prosperity. I want to ask you, how do the benefits of this program and the evidence best influence key decision makers, particularly in the Ministry of Finance, to continue to make investments into this program?
Obrigado, Sr. Michael. Em primeiro lugar, queria agradecer a Deus que hoje estou a participar nesta conferência de nível alto. Em segundo lugar, eu queria agradecer ao IDB, que tem a oportunidade de convidar para participar nesta conferência com muitas experiências dos países que são similares e iguais, e como que podemos trabalhar num assunto social e integrado. No terceiro lugar, antes de apresentar este programa, queria agradecer também ao governo da Austrália, que financia este programa Bolsa da Mãe à Geração FON, 50%, e também 50% do meu governo. Este programa relativamente é grande complexo, mas conseguimos implementar dentro de 2 anos, 2021, e até a data ainda continuamos. Também queria compartilhar com vocês que estão aqui, são os países diferentes, mas ao mesmo tempo nós somos uma ilha de Ásia-Pacífico. Timor-Leste, situada no meio de dois países gigantes, um é a Austrália, outro é a Indonésia. É uma ilha pequena, tem 1,300 e tal milhões de pessoas que vivem nessa ilha. E esta Bolsa da Mãe, ou Bolsa da Mãe Geração FON, é criado e estabelecemos por um decreto-lei de 2002-2001 e uma diploma ministerial, trabalhando juntamente com ministérios interligados, o Ministério da Saúde e outros ministérios que têm, ao mesmo tempo, uma ligação com este programa. E Bolsa da Mãe tem um subsídio para as pessoas, as senhoras com gravidez, de $15, a todas as mulheres em gravidez, $15 por um mês. E, ao mesmo tempo, também nós temos, depois do parto da senhora, a criança tem direito de receber $20 por mês, mensalmente, desculpa. E também temos uma suplementa que esta criança de nascimento tem problemas de portadores com deficiência. Temos uma suplementa de $10 e ao todo por mês ele tenha direito de receber $30 por mês. E estes beneficiários é para reduzir uma redução da pobreza, melhoria cuidado de saúde e nutrição, aumentar oportunidades e uma economia para todos. Nós temos características neste trabalho, temos de 4 a 5 características, universalmente, para quem quer entrar neste programa, e também incondicional, para as pessoas que têm a condição para poderem receber estes benefícios, e adição voluntariamente a quem quer entrar neste programa, inclusivamente também gratuitamente para fazer o registro não paga, registro é gratuito, o governo gratuitamente as senhoras que particularmente para registrar a quem está com grávida, ele receber este benefício, não tinha nenhum problema. Esta é uma estratégia do governo para uma integrada atingir uma proteção de inclusão na financeira das atividades econômicas e saúde na nutrição da família e, ao mesmo tempo, para registro civil, para encontrar os seus documentos e na sua família, como uma bilhete de identidade e outra parte também para ser bem integrado numa nutrição da família. Obrigada.
Thank you. That's a remarkable program, and I want to come back to it and its linkages in a few minutes. But Mr. Khan, I want to just take this theme of human capital and look at how it fits into your bigger Social Security strategy. At a workshop earlier this month in Mymensingh district, which included surrounding districts, where you were helping to build the capacity of local government officials, you indicated the special importance given to child-centered social protection in order to build, and these are some of my favorite words, a fair and talented nation. How are these investments in cognitive capital through these kinds of programs important in your strategy for building the foundation of Bangladesh's future prosperity?
Well, you may be aware that Bangladesh has a vision to establish a smart Bangladesh. And to achieve that goal, all citizens must be smart citizen. And to build up a smart citizen, the first and foremost thing is that we have to take care of our child. Because the child today, the child of today will be the leader of tomorrow. So considering this in view, Bangladesh government has taken a comprehensive effort which is named as Mother and Child Benefit Program. This is from early childhood, from the pregnancy to the birth of a child and after 2 or 3 years. So this coverage actually indicates the government's will that the children become healthy and their cognitive ability should be built up if they are given nutrition. So this is a very, very flagship program of Bangladesh government. And you know that the present number of beneficiaries now is 1.8 million, and it is the coverage will be in near future. It will be in 5 million, and the result, we have started getting the return of our of this MCBP program, Mother and Child Benefit Program, that the stunting rates is reduced from 36 to 24 during the last 10 years, and the wasting rates is 16% to 9%. I think this is very, very remarkable. And due to this support, these social security programs, primary enrollment is around 100%. And also the school meal program, government is providing in addition to the school stipend. So this is really a very good initiative to build the nation with the child with full nutrition. Such integrated programs actually results the cognitive development of our children, and finally it will return the leader of Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. You know, these are examples of where integrated social protection generates the highest returns. Returns as high as 18 to 1 in a recent study in Bangladesh. And this is building at the foundation of the life cycle, the human and cognitive capital that is so important, not only for delivering children's rights, but building the capabilities for the future labor force. So we want to turn now towards the second integrated theme, livelihoods. And Pavit, I want to ask you, the Davao project, I think that's the first green public transport modernization initiative in the Philippines. If we tried this in South Africa, and we did, but not nearly so ambitiously, the taxi drivers just shut the country down. The livelihoods disruption is enormous. How do the integrated social protection benefits in your project generate the social buy-in and the government buy-in that enables success and hopefully this initiative being scaled up and replicated across the country and hopefully in other countries around Asia?
So as I was saying, Michael, first and foremost, I think we looked at social development as an integral feature of the whole project. This was not an add-on, a separate element. And this was consistent with the way the city of Davao and Philippines was looking at social development as well. So we were very much tying in with the local situation in terms of the design elements of the project. So, you know, we have our due diligence requirements around resettlement, land acquisition, gender requirements, but this was going several steps beyond that to look at actually fostering sustainable livelihoods, ensuring sustainable transition, but at the end of the day, looking at this as really, and I think the point was made yesterday by a couple of panelists, as an investment in the future. So, that there would be a tangible return on the investment in social development. So I think that informed the design and implementation features of the project first and foremost. The integration across the project was facilitated because we had very strong engagement at all levels of the government, but also with stakeholders on the ground. So for the livelihood aspects of the project, including the non-financial support that was provided, we had worked closely with the Technical Education Skills Development Agency here, the Department of Trade and Industry, and this was work that was done with the local authorities as well, with the city of, I mentioned the social welfare units in the city. So I think it was really an integrated, multi-sectoral effort from the start of the project, from the commencement. The other aspect was in the replication features of this, which was something that was, again, a very strong point of emphasis, was not something that we took for granted. So I think the data management was reviewed and looked at by local actors. So the University of Philippines, the Southeastern University there, I think was again a key stakeholder to vet this and look at what aspects would be replicable in the Philippine situation. And the last point I'll make here is that we are now doing this in other projects as well. We have, under the Japan Fund for Poverty Reduction, grants on sustainable livelihood that are built into a number of large infrastructure transport projects, the Malolos-Clark and the South Commuter Rail, to give you two examples. So it's now, this is standard process now for us. Thank you.
Great. No, it's remarkable how integrated this project is, and it really bodes well that it will be the future of projects for the ADB, and I think for the whole systems around the world. Continuing that theme, Leafy, and looking at the nuts and bolts of how do you support livelihoods, your social economic registry has diverse information on housing, on employment, on demographics, water, sanitation, health. I could go on probably until my time runs out. How are you using this information to strengthen and build bridges to complementary initiatives, in nutrition or in livelihoods, to multiply the social protection system's developmental impact?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, as you mentioned, before that, the socio-economic registry, the whole variable included that system. That's why the objective of this social registry is how to make government better integrated program. That the objective. So it could be used to develop social protection policies by relevant ministries and get it integrated whole the line ministries and program. For example, in our socio-economic registry, we are a variable for the, for example, wait for a moment. In terms of the policies related to targeting social assistance program. In Indonesia, we have some social assistance like the cash transfer, conditionality, non-conditionality. We have the family hopping program. We have the subsidy for gas, electricity. We have for the empowerment for the micro and medium entrepreneurs, something like this. So it's those policies targeting social assistance program is many related ministries. For example, under the social affairs, under the Ministry of Village, under the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Agriculture, Education, and Culture. That is one example. And the other example is policies related to the development of social security program. As I said before, we have the agency that relate to the social security in Indonesia. Ministry of Health, Ministry of Manpower, Social Security Agency on Health and Employment. Those the ministers and then institution can get related integrated development for social security program. And the other one more example, I have more focus on, for example, like here, policies related to the development of employment and economic empowerment program. We have some variable in our social economic registry, like the variable for working status, for the business ownership, number of workers, livestock asset, and then maybe the household get the ultra microcredit or credit. That all the policies related to the development, employment, economic empowerment program is connected to the other, like Ministry of Cooperative and Small Medium Enterprises, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Manpower, and Industry. So we have identified is more than 20 ministries that integrated to the social economic registry. That's my.
Oh, wow, and this is why that registry is so important for coordinating. Thank you. Minister, you have recently built on the Bolsa de Mayo's success in early childhood investments to strengthen the financial and economic inclusion of the adults in these households, expanding this life cycle to working age interventions. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges of integrating livelihoods programming into what is already a very complex integrated program? And what do you see as the benefits of this expansion into financial and economic inclusion?
Obrigada, Sr. Michael. Uma pergunta muito interessante. Este programa, o programa Bolsa da Mãe Geração FON, é para melhorar o cuidado de saúde durante a gravidez. Segundo, melhoria de saúde infantil. E terceiro, melhorar o de acesso a uma alimentação nutritiva. Quarto, melhorar das crianças de saneamento e higiene. E também este programa, pela primeira vez, continuamos, mas não é pela primeira vez, mas é um programa que tem uma financeira inclusão, todas as atividades econômicas e melhorando, que este programa, nesse momento, organizado pelo Pentex, que nós pagamos uma carteira eletrônica. Esta carteira eletrônica trabalhando junto com a organização não governamentais. São os setores privados. O setor privado, nesse momento, que trabalhando tanto para este programa. Nesse momento também, Timor-Leste fazer uma primeira vez pagamento de a carteira eletrônica com TP, Moza e mais outros bancos que existem em Timor-Leste. Para melhorar a primeira programa, nós temos primeiro lançamento até a data, temos 41,556 candidatos que tiveram acesso deste trabalho e tem uma solução de fintechs. Então, como acompanha ontem e hoje, é que se queria compartilhar aos outros países mais avançados na Ásia, como a Indonésia e Filipinas e mais outros países que tinham implementado nesse programa. E também um pagamento digitalmente. Ainda continuamos nesse ano e também continua ao próximo ano. E o que nós fizemos nesse momento? Continuando com trabalhamos junto ao governo Austrália, um apoio enorme do governo Austrália, e precisamos de mais recursos humanos no nosso país. E o que nós precisamos mais, as pessoas mais rurais, até que ainda tinha problema, mas o registro civil, nós optamos as nossas identidades próprias, como cartão eleitoral, passaporte e outra identidade que o governo reconhecido. Então, por meio deste programa, para melhorar a nossa comunidade e população, em particularmente as pessoas que ainda vivem numa linha carenciada em Timor-Leste, e isto é que continua este programa. E o governo, de 5 em 5 anos, nós continuamos a implementar este programa para o nosso país. Mas simplesmente também queria compartilhar nessa conferência que nós também tantas barreiras, mas também temos as soluções, que nos falta de documentação de lixo, uma libreta para mãe e filho, no Ministério da Saúde e Ministério da Justiça e Ministério Estatal, trabalhando com o Ministério de Solidariedade Social e certidões de nascimentos, mas nós também temos soluções para como é que revelamos, reforçar, a coordenar com o Ministério Social das pessoas mais nas áreas rurais e também o acesso de serviço, mais pessoas que abordaram junto com as pessoas que ainda não tinham outras questões nas locais, forneceram treinamento e atualização da oficina para o registro. E outra barreira que nós enfrentamos é infraestrutura, que o nosso país é um país é uma ilha pequena, mas não é como um país assim, da Indonésia, comparamos. Há um país que é muito complicado nas ilhas de descer e subir nas montanhas. Nesse momento ainda não temos uma infraestrutura suficiente para as pessoas poderem encontrar. E também falta de conectividade na internet, ali na internet, é muito menos em Timor-Leste, apesar de já temos três organizações, Timor Telecom, TT e Internet de Indonésia, que já temos, mas ainda tem outra internet, mas nós ainda continuamos com esta dificuldade. Mas nós também temos outras soluções para compartilhar aqui, que negociamos provedores para o pagamento, expandir, continuar, e também garantir o encaminhamento de cartões para o registro e também melhorar a infraestrutura para entregar estes pagamentos para continuar até chegar à base. Obrigada.
Thank you. It's good to see how you're trying to build these integrations and to strengthen livelihoods. And I agree, the inclusive digital technologies will take these steps even further. Continuing this livelihoods thing and beginning to move into climate change, I want to ask you about the livelihoods and graduation programs like Shopno that are making a positive contribution to the labor force by focusing on economic inclusion, but also training of women in livelihoods opportunities. Shopno's programs include climate responsive livelihoods that actually enable the participants to engage in livelihoods with a smaller carbon footprint, but also with more sustaining livelihoods that contribute to the country's economic growth. How are you integrating these graduation programs into your social protection strategy, and what are the plans for scaling up these kinds of programs?
Okay, thank you, respected moderator. Actually, Shopno, the full expression of Shopno is strengthening women's ability for productive new opportunities. In short, it is Shopno. This is a flagship program for the vulnerable working age women in Bangladesh. Our national social security strategy recommends to scale up this program so that the beneficiaries of this Shopno project take part in the development activities and come to the mainstream to earning their livelihood in a sustainable way. And the second thing is, according to an evaluation report, it is seen that the Shopno beneficiaries never return to poverty, after the end of their terms of 18 months tenure, 18 months. The women of Shopno are given hands-on training according to their choice, and they are also given the support to get employment in the relevant sectors. The beneficiaries get a handsome amount of money as capital by forced saving. Forced saving, that is, the project is 18 months, and every month they have to save a portion of their earning. This is forced money, and after the ending of the project, they got the handsome money, and they can utilize this in the job market. Thus, they are participating and contributing to the development. Presently, it is running in 25% areas of the country, but the National Social Security Strategy recommends it to scale up it 40% of the country. This project, as you mentioned, it is also climate sensitive because it involves forestation. Forestation that relates to green economy, and as well as they are also involved in natural agriculture. The beneficiaries are involved in the natural agriculture. This way, they contribute to in reduction carbon, and as well as finally contributes to climate change mitigation. This is very important. And when any other program they take, they ensure that these all are climate friendly. So without climate friendly, they don't involve in the programs. So this is a really a very climate sensitive and gender sensitive program. Thank you.
Thank you. And I realize we're running out of time, but there's one last question that I think will really tie up all the key lessons. Pavid, as countries across Asia and around the world tackle the challenge of a just transition to green and sustainable development, I can't imagine a better example than the Davao Public Transport Modernization Project. What are the lessons you could share from ADB's work and the government of the Philippines' work on this project in effectively and efficiently integrating social protection into green infrastructure projects?
Thanks, Michael. I can see the light going, so I'll try and be as brief as possible. I think there's maybe 3 points I'd like to mention very briefly. First is, when we look at infrastructure projects of this nature, complex, technically sophisticated infrastructure projects, it's important to understand that the social aspects can get just as complicated. And you need to give a chance for the project to work this out, right from the development design stage to the implementation. And so I think the planning cycle has to adequately factor that in first and foremost. The second point is, I think you have to go in clear-eyed about what some of these impacts involve. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives, livelihoods. It can be quite traumatic, and making sure that you have consistent engagement channels, stakeholder consultations, and it's not a one-off. This is obviously an iterative process, and that you budget accordingly, right? So the budgeting has to be appropriate to the scale and ambition of the project. Last point is, and this is a bit of an aside, but in a region in the Philippines and Mindanao, where we've had very strong infrastructure focus, economic development focus, you can actually see the link between the rollout of some of our infrastructure work in Zamboanga Peninsula and other parts of Mindanao, and the link with the reduced threat of insurgency. So I think we sometimes don't appreciate how economic development, social development can have these multiplier effects across the board. So let me stop there.
Thank you. Those are really important lessons. And as you can probably see, we could talk until the end of the day about how integrated social protection builds bridges to other sectors and contribute to developmental synergies. The 4 examples here are some of the best cases of integrated social protection I have seen, and all 4 panelists, I'm sure, have much more to say. So feel free to engage during the tea break and at lunch to discuss this further. I'm sure in your countries there are many, many more examples, but this we see as the key to strengthening the developmental potential of social protection. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michael. And our esteemed panelists, may we ask you to remain here, as we'll probably take some pictures later on. We learned a lot from these great examples of integrated social protection that we talked about, building capacities. Again, the power of partnerships. This came up yesterday, so again and again we talk about the importance of multi-stakeholder and sectoral approach. And of course, data management. Data management is key, so thank you for sharing those excellent examples. Before we go, I just like to remind you all to do self-check-in. If you haven't done it this morning in your headsets, please do leave them on the seats. We will collect them for you. And we'll pause for a break now. Please return here at 11:15 for the next panel discussion. Enjoy your break, everyone.